Members, good afternoon. We have a quorum, and it's the appointed time. So I call to order the meeting. Agenda item 1, information papers issued since the last meeting. After the last meeting, the Secretariat has issued one information paper. The details are set out on the agenda. Agenda item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. Let's invite the government officials to come in first. As we wait for the government officials, let's look at the discussion items for the next meeting. There will be 2 items. The next meeting will be held at 8:30 a.m. on the 10th of July. It's a Friday. The first discussion item will be proposed subsidiary legislation in relation to regulated hydrogen and its related matters under Cap 51 Gas Safety Ordinance. And the second discussion item will be proposed amendments to Wild Animals Ordinance. Do members have any objections to the above 2 items? Do we all agree? One item will be about Gas Safety Ordinance and the other will be about the Wild Animals Ordinance. If we all agree, these are what we will discuss at the next meeting. Agenda item 3 of today's meeting, implementation and effectiveness of the optimized environmental impact assessment ordinance and use of the environmental database to enhance efficiency. Members who'd like to speak, please press the request to speak button. I see that the government officials are seated. Welcome, Secretary for Environment and Ecology, as well as the other government representatives. I'll first invite the Secretary to give us a briefing. After that, there will be a PowerPoint presentation. Secretary, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, today we will report to members on the implementation and effectiveness of the optimized EIAO. And we will brief members on the proposals for the next stage, including the use of the Hong Kong Environmental Database. In the past, information was scattered and a lot of time was needed to collect data during the EIA process. So under the premise that we can ensure public participation, we have optimized the efficiency of the EIA process. On the 30th of June 2023, we optimized the EIA process and it's been effective. The overall time needed for the EIA process was shortened from 36 to 48 months to about 15 to 24 months. In the past, we relied on a passive system. That is, we relied on others to submit EIA reports to us. Now, we have reformed the system and we've opened up the database to other parties so that the relevant parties, before they carry out the EIA process, they could have access to the data. At an early stage, they can already have access to the information, and so they could make use of the opportunity to improve the EIA process. And this allows for greater flexibility for cost-effective proposals and solutions. To give you an example, in Santin Technopole as well as Lok Ma Chau, as well as in the Altan May projects, acoustic windows as well as acoustic balconies could be used to mitigate noise impacts, and we were able to do away with 2.2 kilometer long noise barriers, and it helped save $2.2 billion. The Hong Kong database is the world's first smart platform in this regard, and we made use of AI as well as the geographic information system. We consolidated data from about 10 years. And since the launch of the platform, about 200 EIA projects have made use of the platform. And we got the 2025 IAIA Corporate Initiative Award for this platform. We also made use of the platform to conduct tree surveys, and it helped enhance the accuracy of the surveys. In terms of professional development, we have worked with professional bodies to provide professional certification courses to help the relevant sectors to grasp the relevant data and teach them how to use the smart and innovative tools so as to enhance their level of professionalism. Now I will invite Dr. Cho to give you a more detailed report. Yes, Dr. Samuel Cho. I will now talk about the optimization of the EIA ordinance as well as the environmental database. In December 2022, we reported to the Panel on Environmental Affairs on the results of the review and enhancement of the EIA process, and it covers 4 parts. First, we said we would update the list of designated projects as well as we would enhance the EIA process. We also updated the environmental permit system, and we said we would update the environmental database so as to balance development with conservation. The technical memorandum was rolled out in June 2023 in terms of the optimization. We have standardized the EIA process. Like the Secretary said, a lot of reports and surveys could be done way in advance, including baseline surveys as well as habitat surveys. We have streamlined certain noise impact assessment procedure as well as air quality impact assessment procedure. It is not that these impact assessments are not needed. According to our experience, water spraying is usually used to mitigate air pollution problems, and for low noise machinery, they are usually used to mitigate noise problems, and these are fixed. Also, we have included baseline information as well as smart analytics tools in the platform. We will show members what kind of smart technologies we use on the platform. On optimizing the EIA process, the measures we've rolled out have been very effective. 22 of the EIA reports have been approved since the 30th of June 2023, and the EIA process has been shortened by half. In the past, the process took 36 to 48 months, but the process now is shortened to about 15 to 24 months. Also, the public consultation time needed remained at about 7 to 8 months. And the level of transparency remained unchanged, or rather, the transparency has enhanced. Here we compare the before and after of the amendment to the EIAO. Before the amendment, 28 months were needed for the Warhabshep Columbarium project, and after the amendment, it only took 26 months. And now, let's look at some district development projects. For Yuen Long Nam Tay project, in the past it would take 60 months, and after the amendment to the EIAO, it only takes 18 months. Why is there such a major change? It's because we have a very detailed environmental database, and there are many smart tools that we can use on the platform, and this helps reduce repetition or information that is not needed. In terms of mass transit projects, in the past, the West Island Line projects took us 40 months, in terms of the EIA process. Now only 16 months are needed for the Kai-Tak green mass transit system. This is because at the early stage we could improve the project alignment and we could prevent opting for an unsuitable proposal. In the technical memorandum, we added a lot of direct mitigation measures to mitigate noise impacts. For example, we included acoustic windows as well as acoustic balconies in the technical memorandum. And this saves the need to use expensive noise barriers. This helps reduce costs as well as minimize disturbances on local residents. In 2023, we amended the technical memorandum, and as mentioned by the Secretary, in the EIA for the Senting Lok Ma Chau Development Project, we made use of the streamlined process, and therefore we were able to save $2 billion because we could do away with 2 kilometers of noise enclosures. In 2022, we launched the environmental database. Currently, the database covers 200 graphs and database, and there are many smart assessment tools that you can use on the platform. Since the launch, there have been 100,000 browsing records. And also in international conferences, we heard that many places made use of the environmental database for teaching purpose. For example, professors in Brazil as well as Portugal made use of this platform to teach their students. We have incorporated a lot of information onto the platform, such as planning data as well as data of various kinds of species. Also, within 1 kilometer of distance, you could check what kind of species are present. This is the kind of database we built at the initial stage, and there is a lot more information covered by the platform now. For Chinese white dolphins, you could track their movements and different seasons, making use of the platform. You could also study their habits, and you would notice that they prefer fresh water. And the blue parts here refer to the streams and rivers. And through this kind of maps, we could plan our engineering projects or construction projects so as to prevent causing damages to important species. If we are to build 2 roads, you can make use of our platform by drawing 2 alignments or 2 routes here, and you can check what kind of impacts it would cause to a distance within 500 meters. And through our platform, you can do the calculation immediately. For example, what kind of people would be affected, what kind of habitats or country parks would be affected, and how could you make use of the information in the past. In the Northern Metropolis project, we made use of the platform. That is the Northern Metropolis Highway. The blue line shows the original alignment, and it passes through a lot of wetland areas. We also came up with the other alignment, which is the red line shown here. If we opt for the red line option, it could help save a lot of money. Also, you could make use of the database to study how we can bring together all the fish ponds. At the first stage, we built an environmental database, and now it has become a 3D model. and we make use of AI technologies on the platform.
So if we want to build a structure, we will be able to see what impact the structure will cause to the surrounding environment, and then also whether you can view the structure from a particular unit of the residential building. On the noise assessment and also air quality assessment, we'll be able to do that. We've been using an AI technology to monitor the birds. We will be able to tell the sound of the birds and also from the shape to tell what species it is. So for the Northern Metropolis development, we can see that we have installed some monitoring equipment under the viaduct, and we'll be able to see what will be the impact on the migratory birds, and we'll be able to protect our ecology. Also, we use of the 3D leader scheme to measure the trees, do tree surveys. In the past, we do it manually. Now we can just install a machine and we'll be able to get the information about the trees and then also automatically upload that onto the geographical information system. And we have received quite a number of awards because of this. In the future, we'll try to make the Hong Kong environmental database to grow sustainably. Our estimate is that every year about $6 million will be required for system maintenance and regular updates and upkeep of the hardware and software, and we will use the user's pay principle to recover the system maintenance and the other costs. For the next stage of enhancement, we will try to enhance our analytical capability, expand the application scenarios, and then also we will try to use smart technology to explore regulation and synthesization of the smart technologies. We will also work with the professional bodies to organize training courses for the professionals. So this is my explanation. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Choi. I remember for the last term when the environmental database was first rolled out, I'm very excited, and today I'm glad to hear that you have achieved a lot of positive results. I think a lot of members would like to raise questions. I'll read out the names of those members. Mr. Lo Fei Ho, Ms. Carmen Kem, Mr. Chen Siu Hong, Mr. Aaron Bok, Mr. Yu Pak Leung, Ms. Vivian Kong, Mr. Chen Pok Ji, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Jonathan Leung, Ms. Elizabeth Kwok, Mr. Junius Ho. So Q&A 4 minutes. Time is tight, so I will try to adhere to the time limit. Please be concise. Mr. Lam first. I have 3 questions. First, when the environmental database was rolled out in 2022, you have rolled out the analytical tools and the assessment, and you also help them to formulate mitigation measures. So every year you need $6 million to run the database. Back in 2022, you were expecting that the cost would be $2 million. So I would like to know what are the reasons for the increase in expenditure. Is it because there are more data layers? And also you said you will use the user pay principle to set tiered cost payment. So can you share with us more on that? Are you basing the cost on usage or what? Lastly, I understand that since last year, you have used robotic dogs and also LIDAR to conduct tree surveys, enhance your monitoring capability, and also to enhance the accuracy of EIA and reduce controversies. So I would like to know whether you have any data on this. What is the comparison of using the light detection and ranging technology to measure trees as compared to doing it manually? For the Northern Metropolis, we want to have a balance between development and conservation, and also there are a lot of ecological life in the Northern Metropolis. So I would like to know in future, how would you use smart EIA to ensure the protection of ecology in the Northern Metropolis? Secretary, 2.5 minutes, please. I will defer to the Director first. Dr. Choi. Thank you, Chair Lady. To maintain the system is now more expensive because we didn't expect to have so many smart technologies therein. As I have explained earlier, we have made use a lot of smart technology, including AI and then also 3D models to be used in the database. That's why we need more money to run it. In future, we are looking at the imposition of costs for use of the database. We're thinking of a tiered structure, and we will try to maintain that for educational use of the database that will be free. But if you need more data, it depends on how much smart technology or analytical tools that you are going to use, because we will need a lot of algorithm to run the database for you. Also, it depends on the size of the project. Maybe then we would set the cost accordingly. Well, you have looked at the 3D leader scheme. It is a very accurate machine. We know that for a lot of the construction works, they make use of this technology to measure whether we are doing it correctly or whether we can do it in the right place. So we are actually close to an accuracy of about 10 millimeters. Also, we can do calibration. We have also looked at 3 projects in the Northern Metropolis, and they are using this 3D leader technology. We hope that in future we can enhance our smart analytical technologies, and we will conduct more baseline surveys. We will work with the construction and engineering team to see for which area we have to obtain more database information. Thank you, Chair Lady. Next, Ms. Carmen Can. Thank you, Chair. The EIAO and the technical memorandum. I remember 3 years ago I was a member of the relevant committee. I'm glad that the administration is coming back to us after 3 years to report progress. My observation is that we have to move with the times. 3 years ago, I understand that the administration is telling us they are now moving faster than before. In the past, you need 60 months for the EIA. Is it because it was too lengthy then? We are now looking at 5-year development plan. Now for the Ngau May project, you only need about 16 months for the EIA. I noticed from the press releases that we are talking about the new road for the Northern Metropolis. And for the Suntin section, about 9 kilometers have completed the relevant EIA study. But I understand that there are 3 other sections of the road, which will be about 15 kilometers. And I don't know what's happening to the EIA study for such sections. We are saying that we are trying to simplify the town planning process, reducing it from 9 to 2 months. So we have compressed that a lot. So shall we also make use of the dedicated legislation of the Northern Metropolis to move even faster? On the database, I welcome the administration to explore imposing a charge according to the user pay principle. But for the 100,000 views, do you have analysis about them? Is it from the sector, the industry, or is it from members of the public? So I think you have to analyze the views more. Then you would know what is the demand for the use of the database. Otherwise, how are you going to map out a tiered charging structure? So 2 questions. Secretary or the Director? I'll defer to the Director. Well, thank you, Chair. For the Northern Metropolis dedicated legislation, we will not include the EIA therein. Because we have the EIA ordinance, we have already optimized, the EIA process under that. So we do not think it is necessary to incorporate that into the dedicated legislation for the Northern Metropolis. So we have done a lot to compress the timing, and then we can also see whether we can further compress it. But I think we should not just look at the EIA process. I think we have to liaise with the relevant stakeholders and the engineering and construction team as to how they can conduct more studies in advance, for example, like the baseline surveys. For the 100,000 views, we do not have a breakdown as to how many of them are from Hong Kong locally, but we understand that most of them, the majority of them, are from Hong Kong. I still have a bit of time, Chair. For the EIA for the Northern Metropolis, if you do not include that under the dedicated legislation, I would urge you to go back and study it. Even if you don't want to put it under the dedicated legislation, you need 15 months for the EIA process for the Northern Metropolis. That is already too long, because for the remaining 15-meter section of the Northern Metropolis New Road, you still have to conduct EIA. We understand that in the 15 National 5-year plan and also under the 5-year plan for Hong Kong, the consultation document, the project was included in the first chapter. To supplement, Chair, for the EIA process, we don't just look at the environment. About 7 months will be set aside for public consultation. So the members of the public will be able to express their views on the project. And the government allows 7 months for the public consultation for projects. For the EIA, it will be able to help us to finalize the detailed design of a project and to go for the best option. So, for the design process, it is also related to the EIA. So in a way, we are not just looking at the town planning. And I think it is even more complicated than town planning on its own. I don't think we should further compress the process because it will not help us to shorten the public consultation or the design process. Well, for the mainland, even for complicated projects, they only use 3 to 9 months for that. Well, I understand that for the mainland, they have not merged the EIA and the planning process. But here for us in Hong Kong, well, even the countries overseas are looking at the Hong Kong example because we have a tool that is available for use even if they conduct the EIA, and they will be able to make use of the database to look at different alignment options. So when they come to the detailed design stage, it will be conducted together with the EIA. So this is the uniqueness of our system. So it is quite different from that of the mainland. Let's note that when we discuss the dedicated legislation for the Northern Metropolis, we go into that in detail. Next, Mr. Chen Siu-Hong. Chair, back in 2023, the administration rolled out the optimized EIAO, and they have approved 22 such projects. And the time required have been much reduced to about 15 to 24 months. So this is a very positive result. On the promotion of the use of smart technology, and then also the administration has established a central environmental database. I think these are issues that need to be commended. Well, for the discussion that we just had, I agree with the Secretary and the Director that for the EIA process, all along, people have been complaining that the process is too long in Hong Kong. It is a lengthy process. But for the EIA in the past, we have done very concrete work, and we are renowned for that. Well, in the past, we discussed how to compress the EIA process, and there has been concern that for compressing the timetable, you will only be developing for the purpose of development, and you put aside environmental impact assessment. So when we discuss the EIA enhancement, we have discussed in detail, and we're trying to strike a balance, and we allow sufficient time for the necessary work. But at the same time, we allow the project proponents to conduct the EIA as soon as possible. So my view is that don't just try to be quick for the sake of quickness. Environmental protection is very important. Second, for the environmental database, we want to impose a tiered costing structure according to a user pay principle. I support that. I think when you impose a cost on it, don't try to reduce the use of the database by the project proponents. I understand that the Secretary will be liaising with the industry, and they will be able to tell which are the elements that are important for the EIA study, and they will be willing to pay for such usage. You say that you want to make it free for educational purpose if the database is used for such. I support that. And I think you should conduct regular reviews and also try to introduce new smart technologies so as to enhance the baseline survey risk capabilities. So I hope that the administration can come back to us later and tell us how we can help approve resources to you for the purpose. I don't have much time left, just two more simple questions. First, a question about paragraph 17 of the paper. It is stated that the user principle and the project proponent has to provide information. So what will be the mechanism for providing that? Mr. Chan, please allow some time for the administration to answer your question. In paragraph 14, it is stated that you would make use of drone technology in future. And how are you going to make use of that? I think the drone technology is already quite mature. Why do you have to use the word in future to expand it, to use it? Because there are a lot of local and overseas experiences. Can you elaborate on that?
Secretary or Director, please be brief. On the questions about resources and drones, the Director will supplement. We will definitely not sacrifice environmental protection. This is our overarching principle. However, we want to change the concept of EIA. By staying passive, we now want to be proactive and provide information to project proponents to help with their design. So this is a breakthrough, and this kind of EIA system is completely different from that in other places. Second, about user pays principle. In the past, the fees incurred were high, and now the project proponents actually see a much lower cost, so I believe they would be happy to make use of our platforms to carry out their design and surveys. Yes, Director. On the question about drones, we showed members how we made use of 3D LiDAR technology on ground. If we want to take aerial photos in the sky, that would require a different technology. If we want to survey tree crowns as well as tree trunks, if we are to examine each tree separately, we will have to make use of 3D LiDAR technology. We are one of the first places in the world that makes use of this technology. I do not dare say that we will be successful, but we are testing out this technology now. In terms of submission of information, we are in talks with the professional bodies. We hope that professionals can first get the professional qualifications. After they get the qualifications, they can pursue further studies on EIA, noise modeling, as well as air quality modeling. And they will have to take courses on these three topics. And once every 2 years, they have to attend relevant courses to see how this kind of modeling is used in order to move with the times. This is our strategy. Next, Mr. Aaron Bock. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to read this document as well as see the PowerPoint presentation. In the past, EIA processes took 60 months, but today it only takes 18 months, so I'm very happy, and I think the administration deserves our recognition. As Mr. Chen Xiuhong said, development as well as environmental protection should go hand in hand. So we need to speed up the process, but at the same time, we have to ensure environmental protection. Of course, if the process can go faster, it would be great. I have 3 questions. The paper mentions the use of acoustic windows and acoustic balconies can help reduce the number of noise barriers. And this is great. That means if we are to build a road and there are undeveloped areas nearby, if we make use of acoustic windows, would the planning department and the lands department agree to this? This is because it would affect land prices as well as the lease. So is that agreed by the lands department and the planning department? Also, will the EPD together with the highways department study low noise road surfacing technology? There are new materials in the mainland, and they claim that these materials can help lower noise level by 4 decibels. So if we can make use of those materials, it can help save a lot of money. Third question about the environmental database. I believe the EPD will keep updating the platform. This is because you said it will cost $6 million every year to maintain the platform. Does that mean the EPD will conduct baseline surveys itself in order to keep the information on the platform updated? Or is it that consultants would do their own surveys and they would include the information on the platform? 3 questions, Secretary. On the updating of platform, I'll ask the Director to reply. On the questions about acoustic windows and acoustic balconies, we have already accumulated several years of experience. In new development areas, which are close to noisy roads, we could make use of acoustic windows. So project proponents can opt for acoustic windows or acoustic balconies, and these are standard noise mitigation measures for new development projects. These are effective noise mitigation measures. As for newly built roads, can the nearby buildings make use of acoustic windows or acoustic balconies? I believe the developers will have to talk to the residential property developers. Also, we have been making use of low noise materials for 3 to 4 generations. We are studying the use of effective and durable materials. If member knows of some effective materials that we can use, we welcome the suggestions and we could look at the materials with the highways department. Yes, Director, we keep updating the database. When an EIA is completed and new information is generated, we would incorporate that into the platform. We also talk to different departments and see if they have new data available. And those data could include plans as well as study findings. For example, the AFCD from time to time conducts baseline surveys. These surveys are not done on a project basis. Instead, they are regular surveys done by the AFCD. That means the $6 million do not cover baseline surveys. The $6 million are not for collecting information or data. Instead, it is spent on maintaining the system. Next, Mr. Perry Yu. The government has optimized the EIA process, and we see that the EIA process has been greatly shortened, and this deserves our commendation. Of course, there is room for further improvement always. We hope that we could protect the environment, but at the same time streamline the development processes. Now, on the database, it cost $5 million to build. And I acknowledge the administration's effort, because with $5 million, the government was able to build such a great platform. I hope the platform could benefit members of the public. I have a few questions. Mr. Bok asked one of them. Now, I understand that there is a geographic spatial office. Are there any collaborations between your database and the geographic spatial system? Would you consider opening up the platform for commercial use? Of course, for education purpose, we welcome that. We want professors and experts to make use of the platform for teaching students because it is free of charge. For overseas institutes, they may use the platform as well. Would you charge them for using the platform? Also, this database basically covers everywhere in Hong Kong. Is there any sensitive information about Hong Kong that should not be disclosed to the public? Have you taken that into consideration? Secretary, I will defer to the Director. Yes, Director. I thank Chair and members for their commendation. We have been working with the DPO. The DPO has been offering a lot of support to us. Whenever we try to upgrade a smart platform, we get resources from the DPO. Of course, more resources the merrier, but they have been providing support to us. When we attended a competition in Shanghai, the DPO made the arrangement for us, and in that particular competition, we were awarded. And we also got one of the major adjudicators award, so we got double champions in that particular competition. We share our data as well as experience with different government departments. As for fee charging, we try to stick to the user pays principle. If you're working on a project and you need computing power and data, and based on user pays principle, we may charge you for that. As for overseas institutes using our platform for education purpose, we did not charge them for using the platform. And the member was correct that some information could be sensitive. For example, there might be information about incense trees or a special kind of turtles. And it is only if there is such a need that we would release the information on the platform. So we keep in view data confidentiality. Next, Ms. Vivian Kong. There are over 200 layers of graphs and environmental data, including cultural heritage as well as ecological data on the platform. I want to know, for country parks as well as geoparks, will you disclose information on visitor arrivals as well as the number of visitors during peak periods on the platform, so that members of the tourism industry could make better planning and have a better idea of the capacity of the relevant attraction sites using the information on the platform? Crowd management measures could also be devised based on the data. Will there also be dynamic assessment of the capacity of the various sites? Director. We currently do not provide any tourism information on the platform. But in terms of vehicular flow and traffic flow, there is such information on the platform. If necessary, we might provide more data on the platform in the future. Ms. Vivian Kong made a very good suggestion. We talked to different government departments about what kind of data or information they need. We already have built this centralized database, and this is a very useful database. For government departments that require the information on the platform, we are happy to work with those departments. This platform indeed can be used in other places outside of Hong Kong. Recently, we worked with the Environmental Authority of Macau, and we're in talks with Macau to promote this platform to other places. You may wonder why this platform can be accessed to Macau. This platform can be accessed by different places. It's just about what kind of big data are made available. So we're in talks with Macau to see what kind of big data could be included in the information. The reason why we got the award in the Shanghai competition, because we were able to demonstrate that this platform could be used in Shanghai.
We hope that in future, apart from Macau, we can also roll out the platform to the Greater Bay Area, Shenzhen, etc., so that we can continue to develop our platform and our database. In Hong Kong, we will try to share the information with the relevant bureaus and departments so as to further develop our database. Thank you. Mr. Chan Pok-chi. Thank you, Chair. The Director has explained about the tiered charging structure and whether the user will be using it for educational purpose or for computing purpose. In paragraph 14 of the paper, it is mentioned that the 3D leader technology or the machine can be mounted onto robotic dogs. I would like to know whether there are further work plans for that. Lastly, when making use of the data, we may come across different projects which will affect the fisheries industry and the fishing ecology. Do you have examples to share with us on that? Secretary, Director? Director, please. On the use of the drone technology, for the Northern Metropolis, there will be certain development projects and we want to make use of the drone technology. Together with the robotic dogs and also the 3D leader technology to have surveys for the bushes in the Northern Metropolis. We may have to clear some of the bushes there for the development purpose. So we have to obtain more information about the trees, for example, the width of the and diameter of the trees, and also whether follow-up action is required. Also, we are thinking of new issues apart from the tree species, which is difficult to be accounted for. So we want to do more on that front. Also, we want to see whether there will be burst nets on the trees and obtain such information so that we can have better conservation work conducted. On the fees to be imposed for using the database, we are still studying that. First, for educational purpose and for use by the members of the public for simple purposes, we do not want to charge them. But then there will be consultancy firms who want to make use of the database. Then they may be trying to get hold of the information in the deeper data layers, and then we will impose a smaller charge. But if there is a project and there has to be dedicated study, for example, they have to make use of our database for air quality modeling or a noise modeling or maybe 3D modeling, then the charge will be higher because the computing power required will be greater. We are now liaising with the industry, and that's all the thinking that we have for the time being. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chair. Generally speaking, I suggest that we should expand the environmental database, and also I fully agree that a charge should be imposed for using the database. I want to make 2 points to see whether we can make the system better. For the Northern Metropolis development, we are striking a balance between development and ecology, and we pay a lot of importance to the migratory birds. I think in Shenzhen, they are looking at the migratory birds as well. We're looking at a low altitude economy, and there may be some control measures that need to be imposed, and there may be some risks. We are now using voice recognition and other technology to identify the species. I do not say that this is sort of a perfect use of the technology, but I think it is getting more and more mature. So I hope that we can advance our work in this aspect. Unless we're talking about very big mammals, you are just talking about migratory birds. They are just flying at an altitude of about 1,000 feet, which is close to our low altitude economy level. And also we are talking about the use of drones, so they are all related. I hope that we can advance work in this respect so that our database can be more precise in providing the relevant information. It is also mentioned in the paper that for the traffic noise and road noise, in the past, during the construction projects, we have to spend a lot of resources for putting up noise barriers, even if there are no high-rise buildings nearby yet. For the current technology, we are trying to use acoustic windows. I think they serve a good purpose in reducing noise. I want to learn more about this aspect. So for the relevant statutory requirements, can you try to make use of the situation from the reception point of view when you talk about acoustic measures or noise containment measures? I will cover the noise issue and then defer the rest to the director. The current arrangement is that we have different options so that the project proponents can choose amongst them. We find that for the design of the buildings, there may be ways to reduce the noise impact with the building design. So all these will be taken into consideration. So we have different tools available for them. But we do not want to impose statutory requirement as to which tool they should use. Otherwise, we will be harming their creativity in designing the buildings. Director, to supplement? On the migratory birds, what we're doing now is that we look at the impact within the EIA project, what type of migratory bird species can be identified. After the ecology study, we try to conserve the migratory birds. If a compensation has to be made, then we will see how we can put up the compensatory sites or how we can put the development elsewhere in order not to affect the ecological sensitive sites. We have also studied the migratory routes of the birds. If we look at the Northern Metropolis as a mega development area, we are aware of the situation. For the drone technology, it is developing very fast. My understanding is that we may not be able to target the major migratory routes of the birds for the use of drone technology. However, for example, sometimes when we look at a country park, and if, say, we're looking at a fire in the park, we'll see how we can make use of drone technology to address that. I think I'll go back and discuss with the relevant departments so that the information can be included in the database to help protect ecology. Next, Mr. Jonathan Leung. To optimize the technical memorandum, use of smart technology and database to reduce the time for EIA process, I fully support that. For the 22 EIA projects, the processing time has been reduced by half. So I would like to know what are the reasons for the lengthy process in the past. On paragraph 7 of the paper, we are talking about the construction of new roads. If we use low noise road surfacing, acoustic windows and acoustic barriers, that will help reduce the noise impact on the residents nearby. But then the different materials will have different noise reduction effects. So there should be a requirement for the low noise road surfacing material. So under what circumstances will we be able to do away with noise barriers and road enclosures? I think we also have to look at the traffic flow. If there is an increase in traffic, there will be increase in traffic noise. Then would it be necessary to install noise barriers? And if you have to install noise barriers at a later stage, usually it would be more costly. So how are you going to address such a scenario? Secretary. On the noise issues, I will defer to the director. In the past, we can be able to compress the time for the EIA process. Well, in the past, there are certain steps which required a very lengthy time. For example, we have to conduct an ecological study that takes time. Also, they have to establish a model for measuring the air quality. That also takes time. And also maybe for the water quality, they have to build another model. So they will need a lot of scientific information to measure the situation. Also, they may have to look at the trends of development, and those will also take time. On the design for conducting the study and also for building the model, that will take time as well because they have to look at the situation in the vicinity. So first of all, they have to collect all the relevant information. Then they have to conduct the model. Then they have to conduct the assessment. And then they come to the conclusion. That already is a process which takes a long time. But if we have a database, then even before they conduct the EIA study, they will be able to have information about the environment concerning the project. Or maybe there is already sufficient data in the database and they only have to get hold of some additional data. So this will save them a lot of time. For the noise or the water quality modeling, we have some standardized models, so they don't have to build a model themselves. So these also allow us to compress the time for the EIA process. Thank you, Chair. On the noise issue, when we conduct the EIA now, for the road concern, we will try to measure if a noise barrier has to be put up, then what would need to be installed in order to reduce the noise for the residents nearby. So already we have already allowed space for installing the noise barrier at a later stage. Well, if a land sale is concerned or when they proceed with the project, then through the works and the project team and also our colleagues from the planning department, we will liaise with the developer. And after the construction of the noise barrier, it may be visually not conducive. So most time of not, they would prefer to use acoustic windows instead of noise barriers. So if we make use of the information on the environmental database, the process can be conducted in advance. Only if the situation warrants it, we will require the installation of noise barrier at a later stage.
Ms. Elizabeth Quat, thank you. I support the idea of using the environmental database to boost efficiency. I'm also happy to learn that the EIA processes have been shortened by half now. Without compromising the quality, if possible, I hope that the EIA processes can be further shortened. I hope the government can work harder in this regard. Now, on the database, I know that each year it will cost $6 million for the government to maintain the system, and the government has proposed a tiered fee charging system. The government said for the general public, it will be free of charge, but for simple purpose or simple use, a small fee will be incurred, and if more data are required, then a higher fee will be incurred. I support the idea. I want to know if this would be shared with the CSDI platform. This is because the data could be used in various application scenarios. We hope that NGOs as well as universities can make use of the platform. A lot of primary and secondary school students use data in their own projects for competitions, so I hope the data could be used for free. Also, R&D institutes as well as universities and startups, they may need to use the platform as well. I hope the platform could be used by R&D institutes, startups, primary, secondary school students, or even university students, free of charge. This can help us cultivate more talent, and I believe that it would also drive more people to get the professional qualifications. Now, there are more data available concerning urban areas. I hope that there will be more data on the northern metropolis too. I know that once new data are available, they would be included in the platform. What if there are outdated information or data? How can you ensure that all the data included in the platform are up to date? Secretary, let's see if the director has anything to supplement afterwards. Just now in the PowerPoint presentation, there was information about Chinese white dolphins, and there was a part that displayed the historical data. Historical data are considered important data as well. We keep updating the information on the platform, but by including old data, you could see how things change. So historical information is also important information because you could track changes with the historical data. While we keep updating the platform, we keep the historical data on the platform as they are important resources for us. Director, I will address the question of whether the platform could be used free of charge by R&D institutes. Well, we will study this. We can open up part of the platform for public use. For projects that require greater computing power or more data, we will charge the relevant project proponents a certain level of fee. Dr. Junius Ho, I'm looking at paragraph 12. The government said it cost $5 million to build the database, and the yearly maintenance cost is about $6 million. What does that mean? Does that mean the government is spending $6 million every year to update the database? Or is it that the database does not exist and you need $5 million to first build the database? What does that mean? Director. We mentioned $5 million because we need to compile the data. Over the past 20 years or so, there have been 300-odd EIA reports. And there are a lot of government departments that keep environmental data. So we need to change the paper-based reports or data into PDF format. We need to standardize the digital data. Also, we need a core platform to build a geographic information system that covers environmental data. And by building this platform, we need to gather the data from different government departments and compile them. Also, we need to develop tools. We talked about air quality modeling as well as different mathematics models. Some members said it only cost $5 million to build this platform, and it does not incur staffing cost. This is a self-developed platform. It is developed by the EPD. And we gave room to our staff to develop this platform, and we appreciate that. As to why it will cost $6 million every year, it covers, for example, cloud services that we subscribe. Some of the data are stored at the EPD platform. In future, we will have to store the data on the cloud. We will need a lot of hardware and software to maintain the system. And if we are to charge the public or other parties for using the platform, we'll need dedicated manpower to provide technical support, system management services. We'll also need manpower to regularly update the data. We will also provide hotline inquiry services. We also will need to educate our colleagues as well as outside professional bodies on how to use the platform. So this is a rough estimate. We believe that it will cost $6 million to maintain the system every year. Madam Chair, I have a follow-up question. I think it's hard for us to accept this proposal. It shouldn't cost so much to transform paper-based data to PDF format. These are not secrets or confidential information. You simply need to redact the sensitive information or information that include personal details. In future, you simply need AI to address all the questions. This is what's so funny about government practices. You keep saying you need to optimize the system, but at the same time, you say you need more manpower. Madam Chair, let me supplement. This is not just a database. We're not simply extracting information and include them into the database. As said, it will cover some assessment tools. Take air quality modeling as an example. In the past, consultancy firms needed to rent supercomputers. And it might cost millions of dollars to rent these supercomputers. And consultancy firms afterwards will have to engage programmers to run models on these supercomputers. And each study may cost millions of dollars. Now we will develop our own modeling, and it could help save a lot of money and time. Every year, we will handle a few such EIA models, and it will require computing power. So for the private sector, it could help save millions of dollars. We have overrun for the first item. For those who want to speak for the second round, would it be enough if I give you 3 minutes, 1 minute each? Mr. Aaron Bok. My question is, say, how much noise a vehicle would generate? Could you review that? Could you also review the air quality impact? Secretary, all this information will be updated from time to time. You mentioned vehicle noise. there should be two types of noises. Noises generated on the road as well as noise from the vehicle itself. We keep updating this information from time to time. Vehicles produced at different times could produce different levels of noise. So we would, based on the times when vehicles are produced, to update the noise levels. Yes, Dr. John Nies-Ho. We're just sharing the information with other parties. Do we need to generate these models for consultancy firms? It costs $5 to $6 million a year to maintain the system, and this shouldn't be the major duties of the department. It should be up to the external parties to go through the information themselves. Well, there will be a fee charging system, right? Well, it doesn't matter whether you charge a fee or not, but it is not your duty to teach external parties how to conduct EIAs, right? Secretary. This is part of our reform. We adopted a passive approach, but now we adopt a proactive approach. In the past, the EIA processes could take 36 to 48 months, but now the processes are shortened to 15 to 24 months. We have been able to achieve this because we have standardized the procedure. Yes, time is money. This is an important reform. We have transformed the idea of EIA. I'll give another minute to Mr. Jonathan Leung, then we will wrap up the item. Madam Chair, I understand that we are going active instead of staying passive. This is to help save time and money, and you will allow project proponents to use the database, right? You said that it costs project proponents millions of dollars to carry out consultancy studies. If they pay you $1 or $2 million, then you could stay self-financed. Is that right? Yes, this is our purpose. We want to charge a fee because we want to have enough money to maintain the system. If Dr. Julius Ho have further questions, you could talk to the administration after the meeting. Now we move on to the next item. Let's invite the government officials to come in first. This item is Green Hydrogen Standard Certification Scheme. Members who would like to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. This item is supposed to end at 4:25, and at 4:30 I need to chair another meeting, so we have to finish this meeting at 4:30 or on time. So please keep your questions and answers short. Welcome Ms. Diane Wong, Undersecretary for Environment and Ecology, and her team. Undersecretary, please give us an opening remark. Chair, members, today, together with the EMSD, we are here to brief members on the proposed Hong Kong Green Hydrogen Standard Certification Scheme, and we are here to consult members' views as well. The country's goal is to achieve carbon emission peak by 2030, and by 2060 our country wants to achieve carbon neutrality. So in Hong Kong, we strive to, by 2035, reduce carbon emission level by half compared to the level in 2005. And by 2050, we want to further achieve carbon neutrality. Hydrogen is a clean energy carrier and could be used in various application scenarios. In 2024, we promulgated the hydrogen development strategy, and we advocated 4 major strategies: improving legislations, establishing standards, aligning with the market, and advancing with prudence. In order for us to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, using hydrogen energy will be our major direction forward. In the 2025 policy address, the Chief Executive announced that the government will formulate the approach of hydrogen standard certification applicable to Hong Kong. Our proposed certification scheme aims to build a framework that is connected to the mainland and the world. And we will certify the greenhouse gas emission performance of hydrogen products. The EMSD in 2025 completed a global benchmarking study. Making reference to other places, we have come up with a proposed certification scheme. It will propose a uniform system boundary as well as certification standard. The purpose is to strive for recognition of other places, including the mainland. And in the long run, we want to reduce carbon emission. The proposed scheme will show to the world the hydrogen and green technologies of our country.
我哋嘅核心優勢，機電工程署呢與
The EMSD has been liaising with the Hong Kong MA, and we hope that for the green hydrogen and the low carbon hydrogen will be incorporated in the Hong Kong taxonomy. This implies that the project certified in Hong Kong will be able to be measured by clear emission calculation standard, and they will be able to link with the green finance capital overseas. For the proposed mechanism, the EMSD has already conducted trade consultation in January to April this year. They are now moving to the second phase study, and the scope of study will include formulating the clear emission calculation methods. And then also they have been liaising with the stakeholders as regards the criteria for the participants. Also, they will make use of pilot project to work out the detailed implementation procedures. And then also they will try to provide typical examples based on the pilot trial projects. And we hope that by 2027, we'll be able to roll out our proposed certification scheme. Now I would like to invite the EMSD to give us a PowerPoint presentation. After that, we'll be able to take questions. Thank you, Chair.
好嘅，咁就跟住係邊？
So who will be conducting the PowerPoint presentation? Chairman, members, I will give a presentation on the Green Hydrogen Standard Certification Scheme. First, on the background. For the 15th Five-Year Plan, it has already incorporated hydrogen energy as one of the future industries and part of the new energy infrastructure. The policy address in 2025, the Chief Executive pointed out that by 2027, we'll be able to formulate a hydrogen standard certification scheme for Hong Kong to drive low-carbon transformation. EMSD has already conducted a global benchmarking study, and we have looked at the practices in the more mature economies. So we have studied the situation in the Chinese mainland and the EU, and we have chosen them as the reference for the development of our standardization scheme. And we have already worked out the certification framework. I would now focus on the standard and the methodology. The first that we need to consider is the system boundary. The system boundary means that when we try to measure the GHG emissions, we have to make use of the ISO TS 19870 as the basis for measuring the GHG emission, and we'll look at the entire life cycle of the product. And we want to make sure that the measurements will be standardized. And we will try to cover the value chain of the whole emission process. We have developed a two-tiered structure. The first one is green hydrogen. The level is 3.384 kilogram CO2 per kilogram hydrogen, and the other one, low carbon hydrogen, is 4.86. We have taken into account the scarce renewable energy resources in Hong Kong, so we will not confine people to just make use of renewable energy to produce green hydrogen. Apart from setting up the framework, so from January to April this year, we have conducted consultation in Hong Kong and in the mainland. First, for Hong Kong locally, in February, with the support of the Hong Kong MA, we have conducted 2 major consultation forums, and more than 200 stakeholders have participated in the consultation forums. We have introduced a framework for the certification scheme, the Hong Kong taxonomy for sustainable finance, and also how the certification scheme can connect with green finance in Hong Kong's financial sector. We have also conducted another 20 focus group meetings with the key stakeholders to have in-depth discussion and to collect their views. Apart in Hong Kong, we have also conducted consultation in the mainland. In April, we have conducted 2 consultation forums in Beijing and Shanghai. We have 63 representatives from 52 organizations participating in the consultation. They support the certification scheme, and they hope that their hydrogen energy projects can participate as trial projects and also to connect with Hong Kong's green finance. After the trade consultation, we have some initial results. I will briefly cover them. So both the local and the mainland stakeholders support the development of a green hydrogen standard certification scheme in Hong Kong. They think that the scheme will help connect hydrogen energy products with green finance. The banks also want to make use of the scheme and Hong Kong taxonomy as a guide for financing the hydrogen energy development projects. After receiving these views, we are moving on to the second phase study and to refine our scheme further. I have talked about that we want to promote the Hong Kong taxonomy, and we've been working closely with Hong Kong MA, and we want to align the system boundary and the emission threshold standards. For the Hong Kong taxonomy, it has already been officially released in January this year. So apart from the scheme, I want to talk about our roadmap. So you can see that from January to April, we have finished the trade consultation. We are now conducting the second phase study, and we hope that we will map out the details and the methodologies and the procedures, and then we will liaise with the relevant stakeholders and discuss as to how we can roll out the scheme. By the fourth quarter of this year, we will also map out typical trial projects in Hong Kong, Greater Bay Area and mainland, and we want to make use of these pilot trial projects to be used as typical reference cases, and we want to roll out the certification scheme by 2027, and we will conduct regular review of the scheme in future. Thank you. That's the introduction. We have 7 members who would like to speak. I will read out their names: Mr. Jonathan Leung, Mr. Kenneth Lau, Mr. Aaron Bok, Mr. Chen Siu Hong, Ms. Carmen Ken, Ms. Lovia Lam, and myself. So 4 minutes for Q&A. Mr. Jonathan Leung first. Please switch on the mic, Mr. Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Well, hydrogen energy has been incorporated as one of the important new energy infrastructure in the 15th Five-Year Plan. It is also incorporated in our strategy. So the mainland and the EU has made significant progress, but for the Japan, US, and UK, they are still mapping out their measures. I think Hong Kong should step up our process in formulating our certification scheme. So I support the proposed scheme. Well, the cost for producing hydrogen is costly, and there are insufficient facilities. Well, the production of hydrogen is only about 10,000 tons every year, and then green hydrogen accounts for the majority of them, about 1,000. Well, I want to know what the difference between the EU and the Australian models. If we were to roll out a scheme that is internationally recognized, what procedures do we have to go through before we can achieve international recognition? Who will take the question? EMSD, Assistant Director, Mr. Eric Wong. Thank you for the questions. The first one is about the standard for green hydrogen. Under the proposed certification scheme, we have set the limit at 3.384. This aligns with the EU standard. So that means we have used the EU standard as a reference for Hong Kong, and taking into the Hong Kong situation, we have set the limit as 3.384. But for the mainland, they are mapping out their national standard, and then the EMSD will participate in the drawing up of the national standard as well. We are now at the drafting stage, and we have already provided the 3.384 figure for the formulation of the national standard. At this stage, for the expert committee, it has accepted our proposed figure of 3.384. Second, for international recognition, how can we encourage other countries to accept our standard? There are two steps. First, we want to go to the Chinese mainland first, and we have been discussing with the State Administration for Market Regulation, and they have the certification, the calculation, and the standards. They are all under that State Administration for Market Regulation. We have also liaised with the relevant bureaus, and they fully support that we should set out our standard certification scheme. Our next step is to go to the EU. So that's our planned step forward. Next, Mr. Kenneth Lau. Chairman, according to the proposal, so long as the production process comply with the process, you do not take into account whether the hydrogen is produced from renewable energy. So this is less stringent than the EU standard, because they would only take into account the resource hydrogen produced from renewable energy sources. I support that, because that gives us some flexibility for us, and also make a conducive environment for production of hydrogen in Hong Kong, so that we can move towards low carbon production, low carbon transformation. Well, for the city bus, they have used commercial reasons to decide not to proceed with 5 buses for the study. And for the Taiwan depot, they will try to create some hydrogen filling facilities there. And then also, some of the trade has reflected to us that there are a lot of statutory requirements regarding the light goods vehicles, and they have to go to more than 13 departments in order to obtain a license. So this is very cumbersome and lengthy. So this proves that Hong Kong is not very proactive in promoting hydrogen transportation. And also, our legislation is not comprehensive enough. So I would like to know, for the Green Hydrogen Center certification scheme, and also the production and use of green hydrogen, are we going to remove the statutory barriers? And how are we going to lower the threshold for the development of green hydrogen and low carbon hydrogen, so that the small and medium enterprises would have incentive to use hydrogen vehicles? Who will take the question? Deputy Secretary, Undersecretary. Well, for the interdepartmental working group, we have been examining the applications, and we've been trying to assist the applicants so that the proposals can be rolled out smoothly, and we also try to remove barriers for them. It is mentioned that hydrogen energy is actually at an initial stage of development, and the production cost is relatively high, and it is not that competitive. If we look at the international renewable energy sources, the production cost for green hydrogen is about $6 per kilogram. So it is more expensive than traditional energy. and it is also more expensive than grey hydrogen. Members may be aware that we've been trying to make use of our funds to support certain projects. For the low carbon technology fund, we have been providing funding for that. That is $600 million, and we have approved certain projects, and about 13 of them concerns the production storage of green hydrogen, and the cost involved is about $560,000. To promote hydrogen fuel cell heavy vehicles, the Low Carbon Technology Fund back in December 2024 has set aside $100 million for the development of such hydrogen heavy vehicles so that we can purchase these vehicles and also conduct tests. So apart from the departments trying to help remove barriers, we also have provided funding support. And we hope that hydrogen, the cost will become more competitive so that we'll be able to roll out more trial projects so that in future, when the market becomes more mature, then they can be employed on a more massive scale.
跟住下一位係
Next, Mr. Aaron Bock. Thank you, Madam Chair. I welcome this proposed certification scheme. Paragraph 11 states that there will be a two-tiered scheme for green hydrogen as well as low carbon hydrogen. Will the low carbon hydrogen be a transitional threshold, or will it be used on a permanent basis? Or will the green hydrogen be a transitional one? If not, the relevant industry may just opt for the low carbon hydrogen threshold. Also, according to the paper, you will not adopt the renewable energy standard as adopted by the EU. Would that affect the accessibility of hydrogen products from Hong Kong to the EU market? Also, do we have enough professionals to certify future hydrogen products? How will we train up such talent? Who will take the questions? Mr. Eric Wong. The first question is about whether low carbon hydrogen will be a transitional threshold. The answer is yes. If we jump to green hydrogen immediately, the industry may not be able to afford that because we do not have that many green resources to produce hydrogen. Low carbon hydrogen will cover industrial hydrogen. And with the use of other energy, some kind of byproduct will be produced. As for green hydrogen, we will take green hydrogen that is not produced by renewable energy sources. We will make reference to the EU standard. And we understand that the EU would like to remove the requirement of using electricity to produce hydrogen. So our pathway is consistent with that of the EU. Now, onto the question about whether we have enough professionals for TUV and CQC and so on. there are relevant talents from the mainland that could help with the certification. A lot of hydrogen will not be produced in Hong Kong, so we will need talent from outside Hong Kong to help certify hydrogen products. In Hong Kong, we will cultivate our own talent too. We hope that we can pass the relevant subsidiary legislations soon, and there will be requirements on how to train up talent in the subsidiary legislations. The government did not say specifically whether our target to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 will remain unchanged. So low carbon hydrogen will be a transitional threshold. Well, to give you an example, currently the EU regards hydrogen as a kind of energy produced from renewable energy resources. In Hong Kong, we have limited renewable energy sources. Currently, we are making use of landfill gases to produce hydrogen. In future, if we are able to make use of renewable energy sources to produce hydrogen, the relevant project proponent will, on top of the EU standard, meet the relevant requirements, and they can specify that, and they could help get the certification from the EU. Next, Mr. Chen Shu-hong. I support the proposed certification scheme. The core of the scheme is that the standards dovetail with that in the mainland as well as other places in the world. The goal is to align our standard with that of the EU. Second, it will be technically neutral. And thirdly, the scheme will help achieve financing. The EMSD came up with the 3.384 kilograms of carbon dioxide per kilograms of hydrogen. I talked to the EMSD and the relevant department, and I asked how the 3.384 figure was arrived at. Different places around the world set different standards. For example, in the US, they adopt 0.45, and it is a kind of tax policy. In the UK, the threshold is 2.4, and in South Korea, it's 0.1 to 0.4. It shows that different standards are adopted in different places. In Hong Kong, we came up with the figure 3.384, and that's consistent with the standard adopted by the EU. The goal is to lower carbon emission by the transport industry by 70%. And is that how you came up with the figure 3.384? Also, on low carbon hydrogen, the EU does not adopt this threshold. From what I understand, low carbon hydrogen is going to be a transitional arrangement. As I said, the goal is to lower carbon emission by the transport sector by 70%. And how did you come up with the figure for low carbon hydrogen? Regardless of how different places define green hydrogen, the ultimate goal is to provide tax deductions or subsidies. And these standards that the administration proposed will be incorporated in the Hong Kong taxonomy for sustainable finance. I want to know if the department has talked to other government bureaus on tax policies. Lastly, from production to use of hydrogen, you may face problems with hydrogen traces. So I want to know that apart from certification, will you make use of technologies such as blockchain to track the entire supply chain to make sure that the quality will not be compromised? Who will take the question? Mr. Eric Wong. On the question about subsidy, I will supplement later. The member asked 3 questions. The first question is about the figure 3.384. We looked at the carbon emission of the local transport sector, and to reduce the carbon emission by 70%, the standard of 3.384 is a bit lower. But in order to dovetail with the standard of the EU, we adopted this figure, and this is supported by the industry. On transitional arrangement, we strive to lower carbon emission by 50%. During the consultation as well as the consultancy studies, we came up with the transitional threshold. If the relevant industry is of the view that we should further lower the threshold, we could adjust that. The third question is about how to achieve certification. We would trace the sources when we first certify hydrogen products. There will be auditors who visit different bases and factories and look at the entire supply and production chain and gauge the level of carbon emission. That's the first round. Afterward, reviews and audits will be conducted. Auditors will go once every 6 months or once every year. It is like complying with ISO 9000. Auditors will check whether any false information is produced. And this is in line with other kinds of certification that are currently present in the market. We have talked to the financial sector as well as the banking sector. They will refer to the certificates generated and see how green financing could be achieved. In the interest of time, I'll ask the next member, Ms. Carmen Khan, to speak, and I am going to draw a line here. Ms. Khan, according to the policy address, we need a certification scheme that is connected to the mainland and the world. And we have to come up with our own standards, and this is a great vision. However, we need to know where our shortcomings are. I'm looking at the part about system boundary of the paper. From well to consumption gate system boundary, we are closer to the standard of the EU. However, according to your paper, you are focusing on production to use stage, and that's different from the system boundary you set. And some of the standards we adopt are more relaxed compared to that of the EU. So I want to know how you will close the gaps in this regard. Second, I welcome the low carbon hydrogen threshold, and it's going to be incorporated into the HKMA's taxonomy for sustainable finance. However, I believe the public does not really understand how low carbon hydrogen can help with green financing. Yes, Mr. Eric Wong. I thank the member for the questions. On closing the gap, it is true that the mainland focuses on producing hydrogen. However, the mainland is currently drawing up their own definitions and standards for green hydrogen. In the process, the mainland realized that they do not only want to focus on production, instead, they would also like to focus on other parts. And that's in line with our proposed certification scheme. On how low carbon hydrogen can help with green finance, we have consulted the financial sector. The financial sector hopes that we can roll out the certification scheme as soon as possible. For some of the requirements, they are already included in the taxonomy for sustainable finance. However, they currently have to engage their own organizations to do the certification. In future, with certificates, they could refer to the certificates as benchmarks.
How about the second deviation? We are more lenient than the EU standard, so how are you going to connect with them in future? Let me try to take this one. We've talked about that for the EU, they only cover the production of hydrogen from the use of renewable energy sources. But in Hong Kong, we have more diverse projects, and we also have limitations as regard renewable energy sources. So that's why, to time with the development of technology from multiple funds, we have adopted the standard as explained by Mr. Wong just now. If there are certain projects in Hong Kong that they will be able to use only renewable energy sources to produce hydrogen, then under our certification system, they will be grouped as green hydrogen. So apart from recognizing them as green hydrogen, we will also provide additional information on the certificate. For example, it is produced by renewable energy. Then the applicant, they can go to the EU for applying for recognition with this additional information to be regarded as green hydrogen. So that means we cannot align with the international standard. So if we can be able to achieve 100 marks, then you give them another certificate. But for the green hydrogen definition, we only set the threshold at 80, and you are not reaching 100 marks. So that means our definition of green hydrogen is not meeting the international standard. Let me supplement. If the hydrogen is produced by wind energy, then this will be called green electricity, and the green electricity will be used to produce green hydrogen. If they can reach a limit of 3.384, then they will be regarded as green hydrogen, and we will include all such information in our certificate. And under such circumstances, we can connect with the EU system. Next, Mr. Luthier. Well, the transport industry is trying to reduce emission, and the formulation of the Green Hydrogen Standard Certification Scheme will help us to achieve that, and there will be also regulatory framework, and also to promote the development of a carbon industry. And I have two questions. Well, some members of the industry have said that the trial projects will help them to understand about the certification system. So I would like to know how many stakeholders have indicated interest to participate in the trial projects, and how many of them are related to the transport sector. In paragraph 14 of the paper, it is stated that you will provide a list of independent verification bodies, and the Assistant Director has mentioned some of the renowned verification bodies. So I would like to know, is it going to be run on a commercial basis with a charging, or will the fees to be imposed be affordable for the trade? Assistant Director, Mr. Wong. Yes, thank you. For the trial projects, locally in Tseung Kwan O for the landfill, we have already been using landfill gas to produce hydrogen, and they will participate as one of the trial projects. In future, if there are other trials, I think they will also participate in it. Apart from Hong Kong, in the GBA, the hydrogen from Hong Kong is produced from in Guangdong, and the relevant producer has indicated interest to participate in our certification scheme. Outside the GBA area, we have conducted consultation, and a lot of companies are interested to participate in the scheme, especially those producing industrial byproduct hydrogen. Even in Shandong, we have received indication of interest to participate in a scheme. Apart from the mainland, some Korean companies have also indicated interest to participate as one of our trial projects. For the cost, the charges to be imposed will be running on a commercial business model. The amount will depend on how complicated the hydrogen production process is. Next, Mr. Yu Pak Leung. Thank you, Chair. I support the EEB in rolling out the Green Hydrogen Standard Certification Scheme. And I think we have to take into account our unique local circumstances in devising the scheme. So we will have our own certification system. We are trying to connect with the EU framework, which is a good move. I support that. Ms. Carmen Can has pointed out that it seems that the value, the figure, is the same as that of the EU. But then we have the inclusion of hydrogen produced by non-renewable energy sources. I think it is just a question of explaining the situation to the public, where everyone will be aware that hydrogen is the future development, and we support that. It is also a national strategy in terms of energy infrastructure. For Hong Kong to expedite the reduction in the emission of carbon, we should have more popular use of green hydrogen, but we have to look at the cost and the competitiveness. Right now, hydrogen is very costly. It is $6 per kilogram. So for the vehicles and the ferries, they can make use of green hydrogen, but it's a bit costly for them. And also, I'm concerned about the bunkering of vessels. Well, I have raised an oral question earlier for the vessels bunkering in Hong Kong. More than 80 or 90% of them can use onshore power supply. Well, I think you are sort of going beyond the remit here, Mr. Leung. Well, for the relevant the Tourism Culture Bureau, they have been liaising with us, and they have reported to us the latest development regarding onshore power supply. For the Kai Tak ferry pier, they are considering that, but it concerns the cost for the cruise terminal there. They have different options. They are thinking whether they should make use of government resources, and there should be public sector partnership. If there is further information concerning the Kai Tak cruise terminal, I think the relevant bureau will report to the Legislative Council. Next, Mr. Bill Tang. Thank you, Chair. For the last term of the Legislative Council, we talk about the legislation for green hydrogen. This is a further move, and I support that, to have a certification scheme. I think we have to move with the times and take into account our local situation. Even if there is some deviation from the EU system, I think we will be able to roll out our green hydrogen scheme. And I think with that, we will be able to incentivize the development of production of hydrogen in Hong Kong. Now, for the competition internationally, it is fierce. The EU has not been very friendly to us. I'm afraid that if we use the terminology green hydrogen, they may be able to identify the difference and then make life difficult for us. Maybe we just say that we promote the use of hydrogen or the production of hydrogen, but don't use the term of green hydrogen. But if you use the same terminology as compared to that of the EU, then I think they will say that they have already a legislative framework, and they are kind of like the first mover or the leader in the industry. So I think for setting a standard, I think the EU will be looking at the systems around the world. Unless there are other world economies which adopt a strategy similar to us, then I think if we want to go internationalized and to tie in with the EU system, but then we'll be attacked by them because of such a move. So maybe I'm a bit over-concerned in this respect, but I hope the administration will try to alleviate my concern. On the other hand, I understand that for the mainland, they have some high technology organizations. They can produce hydrogen just by themselves, and they are not using the traditional fossil fuel. They are just trying to make use of renewable energy to produce hydrogen. So there are actually examples in the mainland. So I think our certification scheme can also be able to cover the hydrogen which is produced by purely renewable energy sources in the mainland. I know you will provide additional information on the production or the origin of the hydrogen production as supplementary information, but would you like to produce another category, say, called green hydrogen? Because they are already using the highest threshold, they are using renewable energy sources to produce hydrogen. I think there will be more recognition if you do so. Lastly, for the last legislative amendment exercise, I have asked about the hydrogen to be used by vehicles. You have already conducted safety tests, but for the mass transit systems, we are now using smart mass transit system. They are using hydrogen fuel cells. Some of them may go through the tunnels, for example, like the East Kowloon line. Last time I was told that tests have not been conducted. Do you have plans to do so? Assistant Director, Mr. Wong, please be concise. Maybe I'll extend the meeting by 10 minutes. Well, thank you for the question. Well, your concern is also our concern. Will the EU be sort of blocking the way for us to connect with them? But I think we have to make a first attempt. We will try to get in touch with the EU. So after the phase 1 study, the second phase we will try to liaise closely with the EU and we'll try to align with their standards. So we will try to see how we can do that. For green hydrogen, whether there should be another tier. Well, for the certificate, so apart from stating that it is a green hydrogen, we will also set out the amount of carbon emission. If the figure is not 3.384 and say if it is 1, then we will put that figure down on the certificate. Then they can show the certificate to other international organizations. For transport, the current practice is that if the vehicle goes into a tunnel, irrespective of the energy sources used, we will count the amount of the volume of gas contained in a hydrogen cylinder. So if it is a mass transit system going into the tunnel, we will also use the same amount to calculate it. That is the amount of gas contained in a hydrogen cylinder, and that should not be exceeded. Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to say that I also support the certification scheme, and I hope that with the scheme in place, we'll be able to liaise with the mainland and overseas. Also, we'll be able to further develop our green finance, and with the certification scheme, we'll also be able to attract more green hydrogen to come to Hong Kong. Several members have raised concern as to how we can ensure that our standard certification scheme will be of a good name. I think we can make good use of technology. For example, Mr. Chan has pointed out that we can use blockchain to make sure that the data will not be altered during the process. I think we should study that in detail. We can make use of technology to ensure that our certification scheme is a reputable one. a reputable one. We have concluded discussion on this item. We move on to agenda item number 5. Any other business? Secretary, 1 minute. Sorry, I have to chair another meeting. Will you be providing financial subsidy? Sorry. Well, every country will differ in respect of their circumstances. For some countries, they may produce hydrogen and they may produce hydrogen vehicles. Then for such countries, they may be giving out subsidies. But that is not the situation for Hong Kong. Here, we are trying to promote the use of hydrogen, like hydrogen fuel cell for vehicles. So our support is to be given out on a project basis. For example, like the New Energy Technology Fund and the Green Technology Fund, we make use of such funds to support the individual projects so that we can promote the use of hydrogen in Hong Kong and its development in Hong Kong. Thank you. Well, actually, for the third item for the next meeting, like the gas safety, it also covers that. So members may raise further questions under that topic at the next meeting. Now, agenda item number 5, AOB. No AOB, meeting adjourned. Thank you.